Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video, I'm going to talk about some of my bookish hot takes. Bookish hot takes are basically just some very unpopular opinions that can be super specific to certain people. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of my personal bookish hot takes. I have a few really fun ones, at the same time, a few serious ones. So I'm going to just mix them up and talk about them to you guys in this video. So without any further ado, let's get into the video right away. Now, hot take number one. It's a very fun one, but I know that I'm going to offend a lot of people when I say this. And it is that friends to lovers is much better than enemies to lovers. Okay. I know a ton of people in booktube, bookstagram, and especially the book internet in general itself love the enemies to lovers trope so much. Okay. But I'm not a huge fan of that trope at all. I just don't understand the concept of falling in love with someone whom you start up hating. I do understand becoming haters to friends or enemies to friends and then becoming friends to lovers, but directly jumping from enemies to lovers just feels so far-fetched and super unrealistic to me. I'm sure it is not something that will happen in my life because if I consider someone to be an enemy, they might end up becoming a friend to me and then further on. But I don't think it can just switch from that to here in any way at all. I can see the angst element when it comes to using that trope in romance books. But I also think that it is being overused and just making us feel like it's enough and just move on from it and just do something fresh. So because of all these reasons, I really think that friends to lovers is much better than enemies to lovers. The next one is kind of one thing which is going to divide people into two halves in my opinion, and it is hardcovers are much superior compared to any other format of books. Okay, I'm saying superior in the terms of durability and nothing else. They look a lot more aesthetic, they are a bit more sturdy, and you can just shelf them on your shelves for a very long duration of time and they get spoiled very slowly over the years. I can understand that they are super expensive and for some people they might be heavy to carry around and it might even hurt the hands of certain people who have soft palms. But despite that, I always prefer hardcover books compared to paperbacks. It's not like I hate paperbacks in any way because most of my collection is composed of paperbacks. The reason why I don't buy that many hardcovers is just because they are so expensive. But if I get to make a choice between hardcovers and paperbacks, I'll always choose hardcovers over paperbacks because it's my most favorite format of books. The next one is something which I think is very specific to me because I've not seen anyone talking about this at all in any kind of bookish hot takes videos that I've watched so far. And it is bookshelves should come in with built-in lights. Okay. I know that not as many people use bookshelves. They use trolleys and they just use desks in general. But for people who use bookshelves like me, just tell me whether you'll be happy to have built-in lights inside your bookshelves or not. Okay, I'm not asking like a huge ton of lights throughout the bookshelf. I'm just asking like small ceiling kind of lights here and there for each and every shelf so that it's not hard to sit down and start lighting the entire video like I'm doing right now. I'm sure if I have some kind of inbuilt lighting inside the shelves, I'd be more than happy to just pay a bit more in terms of money and use it for a longer run compared to just going forward and buying some serial lights and stuff in order to decorate my bookshelves. I know that this is not such a popular opinion that people will agree on, but it's definitely something to think about and tell me whether you will be on board for it or not. The next one is also something that is very specific to me, but I think many people will agree with me after I say this because I know that many people are facing this as an issue, especially when it comes to paperbacks. And the hot take is that all paperbacks should come with French flaps. Okay, and if you don't know what a French flap is, it's basically this flap thing that goes inside the cover so that it makes us feel like the paperback is a hardcover. Okay, you can see that it looks like a hardcover if you see it from this angle, but it's actually a paperback. And it has a practical advantage also, and it is that if I'm reading the book like this one and if there is something very exciting happening in there and I just express it physically with my hands, you can see that I'm bending the cover here, and if the flap is not here, I know it will just put some kind of a dent running through the center of the front cover or at times even a line, and the French flap just helps to protect the book cover to such a great extent while doing this. And basically it just makes the book a bit more sturdy. We all like floppy paperbacks, but I also think many people need to get on board with wanting to have French flaps in each and every one of the paperbacks because it just makes the paperbacks a lot more durable and easy to handle. The next hot take is book size, book format, and the number of books that you read doesn't matter. Okay, as long as you read something, you are a reader. You need not be reading certain specific kind of things in order to become a reader. For example, for me, anyone who reads even magazines on a regular basis are readers, or people who even read newspapers are readers for me, because I know that reading magazines and newspapers is a lot more difficult than reading fiction books or non-fiction books itself. Even with that, you are acquiring some kind of knowledge, you're doing some kind of reading, you're learning something, you're consuming some kind of media via reading. So it doesn't matter what you're reading. You can read comic books, manga, you can read any shit. As long as you're reading, you're a reader. And the format from which you read is also not at all a matter. You can read from physical books, ebooks, audiobooks, or any other thing out there. As long as you're reading, you're a reader. You need not read a specific number of books or a specific number of pages per book in order to become a reader or consider yourself to be a reader. I know that there are a few of these nasty people on BookTube or just the book internet in general who do this gatekeeping, saying that if you just read one book per month or one book per year, you cannot consider yourself a reader, or saying that audiobooks are not actually reading. All those things are just shit opinions, and just don't pay heed to them. If you're reading something, if you're reading anything, you are a reader, and just don't take all those kind of unnecessary vibrations into you, because it's just sad people pushing their unworthy opinions into the world. The next hot take is something which I think a few people will agree on with me, and it is that if a book has really good writing, and if the plot doesn't feel good at all, or if the story does not feel engaging at all, I will finish the book just because I love the writing style, okay? I've done this with a handful of books before, and I'm sure that I will be continuing on to do that in the future also, because I'm a person who does like beautiful prose. If I like the way in which the author is stringing the words together and making me see things and feel things, it doesn't matter if there's a story or not in the book for me. I will just end up finishing the book, and I will not DNF it for the reason that it doesn't have a story or if it doesn't have a strong plot. All those things don't matter to me as long as the writing of the author is strong and makes me feel stuff. This next one is probably the hottest of all the fun takes that I'm taking in this video, and it is characters is much important than plot, okay? And I'm saying this being a character-driven reader. I just want my stories to have really beautiful characters. Even if the story is amazing, and if it doesn't have engaging characters or relatable characters for me, I'd probably not end up liking the book or giving it a lot more ratings than I usually would, because I don't have anyone to latch onto into that story. I'll tell you why I think so, okay? I saw this very beautiful quote on Instagram, you know, one of those many aesthetic quotes that we see on Instagram, which is very bookish, and it goes something like this. I don't remember the exact quote, I'm just paraphrasing. And it goes like, we readers keep on reading books because human beings have the tendency to go back to places where they find themselves. And it just felt like a quote that was written for me, because I am a hugely character-driven reader. And for that reason, I always think characters are much more important compared to the plot. And a great example that I can give for this one is the Shadowhunter Chronicles by Cassandra Clare. I've read all the books inside the series, and for most of them I've just read them for the characters. I don't give a F about the plot, even though I know that they have really good mystery plots going on. But if the plot is weak in a Shadowhunter book, it doesn't matter to me, because I'm going just for the characters. So the plot can go down the drain and nothing can even end up happening towards the end. If these people are happy, if I'm able to see these people being happy, that's just more than enough for me. We've seen a few fun ones so far, so I want to switch into a couple of things which are a bit serious in their tone. And of these, the first one is sexism is not okay in any kind of books, especially romance books, okay? I've seen sexism being done by male authors by representing female characters as just objects in multiple fantasy books which are more older in terms of their publication compared to being modern ones. But even with modern ones, what I'm seeing is when it comes to romance books in specific that are written by female authors, it feels like the male characters need not be there at all, because they are just shown as cardboard cutouts of people who just have great bodies. And apart from that, we cannot see anything that is attractive about that person at all. I totally understand that it has happened to female characters for so many decades in stories across publishing, and it is super important to address it here on BookTube, because there are so many people engaging with this community and the content that we produce here. While addressing that properly, I also think it is very much necessary to make sure that no one else is also doing that to any people of any other gender in any particular genre. If it is happening in kind of an erotica book, I understand it. But if it's happening in a contemporary romance where a particular person is just shown attractive because of their body, I think that's just a very superficial way of writing a book or dealing with a character. And no matter who does it, a man or a woman or anyone else, it is not right and it should not happen. Unless you know that's basically the point of the book. It is quite serious and I've not seen that many people talking about it, so I just want to put it out there. The next one is going to be something which is very polarizing to people, especially non-fiction readers more than fiction readers, because this hot take is regarding non-fiction books, and it is that self-help book authors should write a page about their privileges in the beginning of the book. And I'll tell you the reason why I'm saying this. I can understand that the main purpose of reading self-help books is to get ourselves motivated and help ourselves by ourselves, hence self-help. and just move on and carry on with all the great things that we can do in our lives. But what happens most of the time is different authors come from different kinds of backgrounds, and we do not know where they are coming from and what makes them certain things that they are saying out loud in their books. Now, if a person is coming from a place of very high privileges, they might not know what kind of people might be reading the books, because it is going to be read by people from all classes across the society. And a privileged person might not know most of the privileges that they had might not be possible for people who are reading the book. I'm not saying it is the fault of any person that these privileges are distributed across different people inside the world, but it is very necessary to understand that all kinds of people are going to read a self-help book. So if the author is confident and down to earth enough not to just say that they had all these facilities growing up in order to make their life to what it is right now, it is not going to bring them down in any way. It's just going to make the conversation that we have with the book a bit more transparent. And it also helps us not to beat ourselves up just because someone else was able to do the things that we want to do in their lives without knowing the amount of privileges that they might have had. At the same time, also the amount of challenges that they might have had. Now, everyone is more than okay to write about the challenges that they went through while writing self-help books. But I've not seen that many authors writing about their privileges so far. So I think that would be a very healthy thing to do to make self-help books even more articulate for the readers. The next one is a fun take, and it is used books always smell better than new books, okay? And I know that most of you guys are going to agree with this one because all of us have bought or at least seen a used book and we have smelled it. And I have a ton of used books on my shelves, and trust me, all of them smell much better compared to the new books that I own on my shelf. It's not like the new books don't smell good. They don't just smell as good as the used books do. Especially the books that I buy from Bookstore are always very fragrant in their tone. I think it's because they are storing all these books in huge amounts in their storage facilities, and not to just not make them smell unpleasant, they use some kind of fragrances in there that just adds on a bit more flavor and layer to the book. And just while cracking open the book and that smell wafting inside your nose itself, it just takes you somewhere else. I think that will be something which many people do like. The next one is pretty unpopular, and it is don't shame anyone for reading anything, okay? It's totally up to people what they like and what they are interested in. And just because we might not be comfortable with the subject that the book is talking about, we don't have any right to go forward and shame a person for reading that particular thing. And a great example I can give for this one is people who read exclusively adult romance books are a lot trolled on the internet just because they like those books. And it's not like all the adult romance books out there have people just banging around through all the pages inside the book. They have a lot more nuance to them. And if it's just about people having sex, it's not anyone's business dealing with what other people are reading. For example, we can just consider this scenario, okay? There might be a person who's in a very high stress job, and they might also be a reader who just read for relaxation and to just unwind after a busy day. So for such kind of a person, reading something which is very comfortable or sexy in its tone can give a huge mental release for them and just help them function better the next day while they are going to work. So the point of reading here is not learning anything, but just to relax and just enjoy the time that they have for themselves. Not understanding this and just going forward and making fun of people or shaming people for what they read is basically just stupid and totally insensitive. So just don't do that. The next hot take is going to be the shortest of all. I'm actually not able to control my laughter while trying to sing this, and it is, I hate Jon Snow. Okay, I don't like Jon Snow at all. I don't like him in the show as well as inside the books. Ever since I saw that character for the first time in the show, because I watched the show before I read the books, I had this gut feeling that I don't like this guy. He's going to do something very bad or multiple things that are so bad that is just going to make me hate him even more. And it kept on happening throughout the show, and it kept on happening throughout the books also. I know that it is a super unpopular opinion and people might even want to crucify me for it, but I don't care. I just hate Jon Snow. The next one is the most practical of all the hot takes I have. That's why I want to end with this one. And I know that many people who live outside the US and UK, which is the majority of the people who read books, will agree with me when it comes to this one. And it is that books should be published across the world in physical formats on the same date, okay? For example, what happens is, they are released on the same date, but the price at which I have to buy certain books here, when I want to read them on the day they are released, is just super expensive, okay? I can just buy 10 books for the same price that I buy that single book, and just in order to not spend that much money, I have to wait for a few weeks or a few months and then read the book when it is not hard anymore. I did say that reading all formats of books is just as equal, but sometimes the feeling of physically reading a book is not equal to doing it in any other format for me and so many other readers out there. So it'd be just awesome if publishers just publish or release the books across the globe on the same date as they do with the digital copies of the book. Ebooks and audiobooks are released during the same date across the globe for multiple publications right now, but physical books hardly get that being done across the world. So it'll be nice if it happens a bit more. So yes guys, those are all the bookish hot takes that I wanted to discuss in this particular video. I also have a few others. So if you end up liking this one, I might even do a second part of this one. Do let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything that I've talked about in this video. And don't forget to comment your own personal bookish hot takes also down, so that it'll be even more fun for people who are going through the comments and also me. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. And if you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.